is the Glass Cannon Network.
Not long before we got started here on the premiere of season 4 of Get in the Trunk, I found out from Troy Lavallee that I was opening the show, which was news to me. If you're a fan of Get in the Trunk from season 1, season 2, you know that Troy always opened the show. And I just got to sit there and relax and have fun. And now I'm put into the hot seat, and I'm under pressure here. I have nothing prepared, and I'm thinking, how do you open a show? There are so many ways based, just solely in the network of how we open a show. Troy,
there's three ways.
What are the 3 ways, Skid?
I don't know.
Well, I can tell you, I can give you 4 ways. I can give you 4 in-house ways. There's the Troy Lavallee way, which is usually say something so horrific and off color that it's just the shock value, half the people laugh, half the people groan, but at least it starts a conversation. Mm-hmm. There's the Skid method, which is basically, just open with a TV shows. Yeah, talk about like what happened to you at the bodega this morning.
Right.
There's the Grant Berger method. Hello. My name is Grant Berger, and I will be your handler. And there's the Joe O'Brien method, which is, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Get in the Trunk, season 4. I'm so excited to be with my friends. But we've done all that a whole lot over and over again. And so I'm curious to know, since the buck got passed to me, why don't I pass the buck again and ask our very own Sydney Amanuel, who has been on a little break from Get in the Trunk, was not on season 3, was on season 2, and now returns in season 4. Sydney, who I don't want to put on the spot, Sid. I don't want to.
But you are.
Put you on the spot. But if you were to introduce the 4th season of the hottest show on the Glass Cannon Network, how would you do
it? Joe, I'm so glad you asked. I would open it up with a song. And then if you want to just cut in, this isn't live, right? You totally cut in me singing like a crazy melody. It's wild. And then we cut back and I go, I wasn't ready at all. Oh my God.
You surprised me with that. I wonder what a Delta Green song would sound like.
Spooky. Scary.
Spooky, scary, for sure.
Horrifying. No, I don't know. I think if I opened a show, I would go with the Skid method. I love the talk back. So it would just open up and like, I'm halfway through a conversation and you just miss the beginning part. You just don't know what I'm talking about.
I mean, that's kind of part of what it is. Sometimes shows start and it feels like someone turns Skid's mic on, like in the middle of a story.
No, you know how I'd open it? It's all the pre-show banter that we kind of refer to, but never actually talk about. I would just bring it up. I'd be like, yeah, Troy was making everybody laugh, typing PP in the chat for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. I thought about it. I thought about just going with the P. P is always a solid starter for a new season.
That's how you start every morning. There's no reason you shouldn't also start a podcast that way.
Or 4 or 5 times during the night while you're sleeping.
Yes.
I miss you guys. I miss you guys so much.
Actually in the bathroom.
I asked you to open the show because I wanted you to suffer and feel like a failure so that the rest of the show would only be up from there.
Mission accomplished. It's hard. It's hard starting a show. It is especially hard starting our first ever season 4 of a show which is so exciting and an anthology style show where every season is different, but this season is going to be even more different because it's the first time in Delta Green that we are going to be starting a campaign. So those of you tuning into this tonight are not just seeing the start of an operation. You're about to see the start of an epic Delta Green campaign. Now, there was one voice you heard sneaking in there while we were all trying to talk. Someone who is, those of you watching on the stream right now, can see him hiding in some undisclosed location in a basement somewhere off the grid.
It's a black site. I don't want to give any details. All of the details in the back have been placed to just kind of push your attention away from where I actually am.
It's all part of the strategy. We could not be more excited. I personally could not be more thrilled or honored to welcome back to the network after his brief run on Cyberpunk Red, joining us for this campaign in Delta Green. Francis Mrema is back. What's up, buddy?
What is up? Glass Cannon Network, the Naish, everyone. This is the most exciting thing in my life right now. Thank you guys for having me. I swear to God. I actually didn't know this was a campaign. I didn't get that email. Does this mean we're going to do this for like the next 2 years? Is that what that
Several
means?
years. You're pod committed here to a very long story. Or you could just die very early.
Quitting my day job. There we go. All right. Note to self. Yes, I'm in.
Yeah, it is thrilling to start this new campaign, a little campaign called Impossible Landscapes, which some of you may have heard of, some of you may not. If you haven't heard of it, fantastic. Don't go looking into it. It's going to be something really, unlike anything we've done before in Get in the Trunk. And so I just couldn't be more excited to jump into it.
Yeah, I've read it. It's really good.
He's extremely prepared. Troy does his due diligence.
It's one of the best written things I've ever read.
In advance of playing, yeah.
Right.
No, it is. Our previous seasons of Delta Green consisted of an operation a season, essentially. Francis is working his way through them right now.
Oh my God!
Did you finish season 1, Francis?
I finished season 1. I laughed. I cried. I literally cried. It was so good. I'm like 3 episodes into season 2, and I think we're just getting into Sydney's character. And oh my God, I can't wait. But I don't want to taint this with all my reviewing all the old seasons. So yeah, I'm putting it down for a while, and then we're just gonna play this until we're done.
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair because it's a lot to come into, and you also don't want to listen to everything everyone else does because then you don't want it to pollute the creative process. Want to go in fresh. And speaking of going fresh, man, we're going to go in really fresh on this first episode of season 4, where for the first time since we introduced Delta Green as part of New Game Who Dis, we are going to start this season off with character creation from scratch. The reason being, and you'll see why very shortly, that this whole new campaign demands new characters be brought to the table. You'll see why very soon. But essentially, we're going into the past here, and a lot of the characters that we had used before are not going to be available to us. So we're going to be creating new characters in this episode. We're going to be going through the mechanical process. We're going to be going through the narrative process together. And I don't know. Are you guys, generally speaking, are you coming to the table with ideas, like specific sort of characters in mind, or are you keeping it just completely blank until you see where we're headed? Skid,
I have something in mind. I just want to say that.
Okay. Troy's got something to say.
Is it still Roger? Is Roger still with us?
Listen, I don't want to say anything yet. All I want to know is I came prepared.
I'm so scared.
I have no ideas.
Okay.
I've been trying to think of something. I don't know if I think I'm creatively spent right now. I can't think of anything. I can't think of a character.
We gotta get your mojo right.
I love it. It's pure, especially Skid. Once we start rolling and I start explaining where you are and what the situation is, I think your creative energies are going to get cooking. What about you, Sid?
I was thinking I do all my thinking when I drive because I've been driving a lot lately, and I just let my brain travel. And I do the thing I always do where I have a very specific character idea, and I know it's going to absolutely disappear as soon as we start figuring everything out and everybody starts making their characters, but I'm hoping I'll hold on to some essence of my original idea.
Okay. All right. And then what about you, Francis? I mean, this game is new to you. You've never played before.
No, I've never played. I've only listened and observed. And I had a couple ideas for professions. And that's literally a profession and an origin.
Okay, so you have
just
something
very
you're
sketched
cooking.
out background. Yeah, that's it.
Were you a
That's
big
it.
X-Files guy,
I was
Francis?
a huge X-Files guy. Oh, God, that's
yeah.
why I'm
Nice.
so excited
Nice.
for
There you
this.
go.
X-Files
all you really
and
need.
True Detective, all of those shows.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's it. There you go. Like X-Files plus True Detective equals Delta
Yes.
Green.
Yep.
That's all you need. When Francis and I first had our first meeting, our first pre-production meeting, Francis, it was very professional for this show. I mean, all we did was just geek out about Delta Green and playing in this setting. It's so much fun.
That first season, I was like, it blew my mind because I'm still relatively new to tabletop role playing games. So like between Cyberpunk, which was kind of a little bit more traditional, I think, and this, I was like, it was a whole different world, and I was just like so immersed. So this to me is like, this is a whole new world. I'm ready to sing like Aladdin right now. I'm excited. I'm ready to go.
Well, it is cool. I think it's really fun and freeing playing in the real world.
Yeah.
As opposed to like these fantasy worlds. Like it's so fun to play in for all appearances is our world.
Yeah.
It's like it just opens up so much that we don't normally get to do. So yeah.
Totally.
I feel like it's such a great introduction to new tabletop players like Francis. Like if you want to get people into the hobby, the Cthulhu mythos can be like a little tough to like wrap your head around. But if
you can just ease your way into that.
Exactly. You can start it off with just the procedural type stuff and the crime investigation. And I mean, I feel like it's so easy to hook people in. And I can't wait to see what you're cooking up, Francis.
Oh, totally hooked.
I'm very excited.
People know about like Francis's and my history together because Francis and I go.
I can't
back.
remember if we talked about it on Cyberpunk or not. I assume every single person listening to this watched all of Cyberpunk.
Right?
Is that a bad assumption?
That was so long ago, but like Francis and I go back to over 20 years. We've been friends. Yeah. We worked at a video store together on the Upper West Side, Kim's Video, this like pretentious, snobby indie video and music store. But so you were at BU when I was at BC. We didn't know each other, and then we became friends. I mean, we always tell the story of the night we met and hung out with a couple of other friends until 4 a.m. I can't tell all of that story, but
there are so many stories that cannot be. This is part of why I'm in a. This is part of why I'm in a black site right now. Why you?
I mean, when I say there are stories that Francis and I couldn't even tell you off camera. That is no exaggeration. I'm thinking of one right now, and I want to talk to you about it later.
I don't want to remember it, but okay.
But yeah, I'm just so excited. Like, you know, we play so many games. We never get to like just hang out with our friends and stuff. You know what I mean? Like we hang out with our friend group when we're recording, but it's so great to have this crossover of like a really close friend of mine and people that I love and a game that I love. So I couldn't be more excited to be playing.
Yeah, and I'm with you there, Troy, with when I think of Francis, the story I think of, I can tell because crazily enough, it was a rather wholesome Joe O'Brien story, which was at your bachelor party, which is, I think, the first time I met Francis.
Yeah.
And I mean, talk about a bunch of geeks. Like you'd think a bachelor party would be, no, it was just a whole lot of gaming and baseball and keeping score.
So much fun.
We had such a great time. But the thing that I'll always remember is that one morning when like it was like a 3-day extravaganza, and because it's just Troy, right? So it had to be like way blown out and over the top. And so after day 2, a lot of the people burnt out and dropped off and left the city entirely. And there was just a few of us left. And I remember I think it was Sunday morning, and we're just like, make another round of margaritas. Let's get back on the wagon. It's like 9 a.m. And Troy and I and Troy's little brother and Francis cracked open Pandemic, the board game. And Francis had never played before, but was like, I'll try it out. And we had so much fun. He got so into it, and he was so good. He was like, "You gotta get over here in Bangkok, or these people are gonna die."
I was so psyched. That was like my total introduction to like full on adult role playing tabletop games, and I was like, you blew my mind with that. I was having so much fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is great. I can do this still. I'm an adult and I can do this. Yes.
Yeah, you can, as it turns out. Well, we're going to do it today, Francis, and you're going to have an opportunity to, just like you did in Cyberpunk, create your own whole character to play. This one more in a modern world, in a modern setting, on our Earth, which I'm very excited about. So yeah, just to give you guys, the listeners, the viewers, just a picture of what is coming up. We are going to create characters during the episode. We're going to kind of go back and forth to everybody, and it's our session 0. We could have done this off air. We decided to do it on air. We decided to make it part of the season. I think that starting a campaign, more so than in other times, I want people to be able to create the characters together rather than go off doing it silently and then coming together and being surprised by what everyone has. Just because I trust this group to do an incredible job of like making an interesting group of people to work together. So I think it'll be really fun. Before we start any of that, though, we're going to open season 4 of Get in the Trunk with a scene. And normally, as the handler, I would set the scene here. I would get some music cooking and I'd start telling you what's going on or what's happening. But instead, I'm going to kick it over to Troy. And all I know is that he's got something he would like to do. Like my 5-year-old daughter. He would like to do a show for me. And I'm going to turn it over to Troy for an opening scene of season 4 of Get in the Trunk.
Huge mistake.
Yeah, you're so trusting. You're so trusting.
Giving him the keys to the car.
When we were deciding about doing season 4 and what we were going to do and what the cast would be and whatnot, I sat out season 3 as well. And I was like, I'd like to come back, but I really want to make this a stream. I want to get everything streaming and a podcast and whatnot, which is dangerous for my character to be live, essentially.
Oh, Raj.
I'm just going to see my Twitter followers go down after each episode. But, there was a question about, do I bring back Roger Comstone? Because this, as you said, takes place in the past, and it's kind of complicated because our first mission in season 1 happened in
2007.
2007.
I believe, or 2009, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was 2009.
I think you're right. It is. It's 2009, yeah.
And then season 2 jumped forward 10 years.
10 years, 2019, right. Yeah.
And so now this one goes back in the past. It's just kind of tricky how to make it work. And I was kind of, to be honest, I was open to creating a new character who was just going to be a skin of Comstone, like another guy. But Joe was like, I need Comstone.
I need more cowbell. I need more Comstone.
I need more Comstone.
My prescription is more Comstone.
So obviously this is a weird game. There's a lot of, it's a Cthulhian type game, Lovecraftian horror. It's kind of easy to make it work, but I wanted to make sure I could make it work in a way that made sense in the world of our game. I also promised that I would be cosplaying for this season. So just to get in the zone for this scene.
Yes.
This is exactly how I've pictured Comstone.
He's just put on a pair of aviators.
Sunglasses.
That's all he's done is a pair of aviator sunglasses. And he's puffed up his lips.
I imagine that's what he does right when he wakes up in the morning. Just grabs his sunglasses.
I sleep with them on. Because sometimes my dreams get too bright.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, God bless your wife. What a wonderful woman.
I immediately feel like I should have run this by you beforehand, but you know what? Let's have some fun. So, God, I wish these were prescription. I can't see anything.
You can't see anything out of those.
Comstone doesn't need to see.
He doesn't see with eyes.
Like a shark in the water. Like a shark making love to a cobra beneath the waves.
Well, when last we saw Agent Roger Comstone, he was standing at a terminal at JFK Airport, looking to board a flight somewhere, looking at various different destinations. He was standing at like the big board of arrivals and departures outside of security, undecided on where he wanted to go. Whether this picks up right after that moment or sometime in the future is up to the imagination of the viewer. But now we see Roger sitting on an airplane. Window seat. He's got a few-day-old beard and his trademark Ray-Ban Wayfarers on. Sitting next to him is a young woman, early 20s, very, very pretty. But she's fidgety. She's very fidgety. She's looking at everyone on the plane. She's sitting cross-legged in the seat and then straightening her legs and back to cross-legged. And she's kind of looking past Roger out the window of the plane. And it's raining out. There's a storm. There's like rain pattering against the window next to Roger's head. You can tell she's very nervous. And Roger is just sitting there, staring at the blank TV screen in front of him. Emotionless. The girl looks at Roger and says, I hate turbulence. I hate flying, but I really hate turbulence. Roger doesn't even turn to look at her. His eyes, as always, inscrutable behind his dark glasses. And he says, did anyone ever tell you it's a really stupid thing to say? That's like saying, I hate when a bomb lands on a children's hospital. Nobody likes turbulence. She just looks at him. She's like, what is wrong with you? She then she looks around nervously for a bit, and then she gets up to walk to the back of the plane, and a flight attendant stops her, and she's like, Miss, the fasten seatbelt sign is on. We're getting ready to land soon. You really need to take your seat. And she's like, I know, but I really have to go to the bathroom. And the flight attendant is like, all right, just hurry up, please. And so the girl scurries towards the back of the plane. And the flight attendant is now walking down the rows, checking each row, making sure everybody's tray tables are in the right position, the seats are up and everything. And she gets to Roger, who is still staring at the dark screen in front of him with no emotion on his face. There's a plastic cup on his tray table that's like mostly melted ice, and 5 nips of Bombay Sapphire gin just lined up in a perfect row next to the cup. She looks at Roger and she's like, sir, can I take your trash? And Roger says, it's a free country.
It's
then, like,
unnecessarily belligerent.
Country.
Then maybe to himself, he's like, at least it was.
You know what I'm realizing here? What's coming to light is that Roger Comstone, all Roger Comstone is Troy Lavallee saying his thoughts instead of only just thinking them.
It's Troy the sociopath.
Right.
Oh, God. And so she looks at him like a little confused and annoyed. It used to be. She's like annoyed at him, and she reaches over. He's not making any motion to hand her the stuff, so she's just taking each bottle one by one and throwing it into her bag. And as she does so, she says, you're really not supposed to bring your own bottles of liquor onto the flight.
He brought himself.
It's his own Bombay Sapphire.
She says, I know you didn't purchase those from me when I brought the cart around. And Roger turns to her now, still looking at her behind the glasses. He's like, well, then maybe the FAA should make it a hard and fast rule. Last time I checked, that rule is neither fast nor hard. But you know what? Next time I'm in a bird over Baghdad with a long-action M24 SWS looking for Alibaba. I'll be sure to ask your opinion on what I should or should not bring on my flight. Flight attendant in stunned silence turns her head and then her body follows as she walks away. Roger pulls a 6th nip of gin from his bomber jacket, drowns it, and just throws the empty on the floor. As the gin scorches his throat, he sits there staring, and we close in on the empty reflection, on the empty screen in front of him, like the reflection of his face in the screen. We just see him staring at it, and as he's staring at it, flashes of Roger's past cut in and out. We see that old woman outside the apartment with the lingering stare, watching Roger as he lied about why they were in that apartment building. We see him walking up to that house in Keene, New York, when he was all alone in the backyard, and then we see the creature in the house tearing Riker Solace apart as Roger looks on. We see Roger looking through a scope, struggling to decide if he should shoot the teenager who had the necklace.
Poor Magdalena.
And finally, the flying monstrosity in Peru, spreading its wings as Roger fumbled with the sniper rifle. At that moment, there's a bad bit of turbulence, and the whole plane shakes, you know, when it goes like, right, and the captain comes
Horrible
over the
feeling.
Oh God, you feel like this is it? The captain comes over the loudspeaker and he's like, folks, we're about 15 minutes out from Baltimore Washington International Airport. Unfortunately, this storm has really picked up and it's going to be a pretty bumpy ride all the way in. Please remain in your seats while and then boom, the whole plane jumps. A bunch of overhead cabins fly open and several suitcases and bags come flying out. The young girl who went to the bathroom, as she's coming back, like a rollaway suitcase comes flying out and smashes her in the face. And she hits the ground and someone starts screaming when they see just like blood pouring out of her nose. If you look up ahead, like people are trying to gather the suitcases and put them back in. Other people have been injured, like this girl. It's complete pandemonium. The flight attendants are like, please, you need to get back in your seat. And the loudspeaker is like crackling in and out, so you can't really hear the pilot. He's like, folks, this is the cap, please turn. Oh my God! Suddenly, there are several like blood-curdling screams throughout the cabin. And throughout all of this, Roger remains calm, at least on the outside. If you were to look at him, everyone else is going crazy, and he's just sitting there, staring at the screen, while this chaos is happening around him. Finally, he looks up, and he notices that several people on his side of the plane are, like, pointing and looking out the window, and other people on the other side of the plane are, like, craning their necks or coming over to look as well, and they are all just screaming a scream of terror that you don't rarely hear out of another human being. Just pure, abject terror. So finally, Roger just turns and looks out the window, this rain battering in. What does he see out there, Joe?
You're kicking this to me?
Yeah, I'm kicking it to you because I figured this is a moment that you could connect this to everything if you wanted.
Campaign Tease? I'm glad you asked.
Before we started
Fucking
recording.
bastard.
Yes.
What do you see?
William Shatner.
Is it nighttime? Is it daytime? I can't remember.
It's night. It's night.
It's nighttime.
Dark. Yeah.
All right, it's dark. Roger turns his head to look out the window, and again, just like you were looking in the TV, you just see like a reflection of yourself. Because of all the interior lights. But as this violent turbulence continues, there's like a flickering and the cabin lights go out. It's like, and then the screams redouble, right? All throughout the plane, these horrible screams. But it does allow you to see something crystal clear out the side of the window. You look out the side of the window and you look down, and as many times as you have probably flown into this area, you know what the area around the city of Baltimore looks like with the Chesapeake and all that kind of stuff. And so you look out and you see the lit up city right up against the Chesapeake, and what the people are screaming about is there's like a massive pit is forming, it looks like, in the middle of the Chesapeake, like 10, 20, 30 times the size of the city. Like and it's almost as if the bay itself is like draining into something, and then lightning, and it lights it up really bright enough so that you can see around the rim of this like well that is forming, you see jagged teeth, and you realize it's like a maw, like an opening maw, and and it's just, and again the lightning flashes, and you see like almost like a role reversal where the city is becoming like water, where it is starting to move and crumble and gyrate in a way like as if it is a wave, as if it's being pushed away from the bay and then turning back toward the bay. Buildings are falling one into another, crumbling under and over each other, and it's beginning to crest to go into this like creature's mouth. Flash, 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 and you feel your whole body go as the plane is like pulled, like the entire atmosphere feels like it's being pulled towards this maw, whatever this thing is. So you feel this jerk, and is he scared at all yet, or is he still just looking?
He's scared.
I imagine he's scared. Obviously, he's mechanically, what do they call it? He's like adapted to helplessness.
Yeah.
But he's not immune to fear, and I think he's still on
adapted?
the brink.
Is that what he is? Adapted to helplessness, not
he's
violence.
adapted to helplessness. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's that element of him that's like quelled, like he's missing that emotion. But I imagine he thinks, "Here it is, the end of the world."
Just as he thinks that, the cabin lights go back on, and all of the it's just very strange. The lights go on, and as Roger turns back, you see the young girl who had gone to the bathroom is back in her seat. She has blood running down the side of her face, and she's just looking at you, completely calm, completely serene. In your peripheral vision, you see everyone on the plane is looking outside, and none of them are screaming. They're just looking. She's looking right at you. And for the first time, you see something you didn't see before. You see that she reminds you of your daughter, Camille. And
What?
And she says, "Roger, you can take your mask off now." What do you do?
He starts like clawing at his face and like digs his fingernails in until he feels like the tips of his fingernails get wet, presumably with blood, and then he just like screams, and then it blacks out. And from there, maybe like eyes open up in a bedroom somewhere, and there's like sunlight streaming through a window nearby, and we hear Roger's voice wince, and maybe a hand comes up to like cover his head like he's hung over. And we're only seeing this through his eyes. You know what I mean? Like you don't see his body or anything. It's just his perspective on this room. And maybe he looks around and there are clothes on the floor. His clothes. But then hanging from a framed picture of Baltimore Orioles great Jim Palmer is a pair of black lace panties. And so he looks next to him, and there's no one lying in bed with him, but clearly someone was recently. He looks about the room and doesn't see anyone. So he stands up and grabs a pair of boxers to cover up what you can only assume is a gargantuan penis.
Just seeing for air. This
Right. You just see a shadow of like a grandfather clock pendulum on the floor. And it lets you can kind of connect the dots as a viewer. But he covers that up. Again, we're just seeing this perspective from his eyes. And he sees like a note on his kitchen table. So he walks over to the note, he picks it up, and it says, "Good morning, soldier. Sorry I had to run, but I had an early flight back to New York. Last night was a night I will not soon forget. Look me up if you're ever in NYC." And then there's a heart, and it's signed Norma. And then she says, "P.S. I couldn't find my panties. Consider it a souvenir." And right as he finishes reading the note, he hears the sound of a newspaper being delivered, like slid under his door. So he turns to go towards it, and it's a copy of today's Baltimore Sun. He picks it up, and the front headline is, "OJ trial heats up." And the subtitle reads, "Defense attorney F. Lee Bailey goes after Detective Mark Furman's racist past." Roger looks up at the date, and it says March 16th, 1995.
Yeah.
Roger tosses the paper on the floor and starts walking into the bathroom. During this slow walk to the bathroom, we see just interspersed quick cuts of like that gaping maw that you were describing on the ground, the city bending towards it, the plane veering towards it, the girl's face. But it's just like quick, 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 like he's not even registering that it's happening. And then he goes over to the bathroom mirror, turns on the faucet, and looks in the mirror. He's huge. He's ripped to shreds, enormous wide shoulders. Looks like a pro wrestler. He's got some scars from his time in Desert Storm. But he's also now in his early 20s. And he leans forward and just kind of stares at himself for a moment. And then splashes cold water on his face. And starts his day.
Oh, I'm so glad you answered my question, which was like, does he remember any of that? And it's kind of like yes and no, I guess. It's like there's flashes of it.
Right.
It's connected somehow, but it's not registering.
He's a broken man.
That's just
Already.
average morning in a Cumstone
Already?
day.
Already?
Just a typical Cumstone morning.
Nobody wants a well put together Roger Cumstone. No. Oh, that was amazing, Troy. Great.
Oh, yeah.
Great work. I didn't doubt if I turned it over. All right. So, I mean, that
Troy
is.
here? Can I speak to Troy now?
That is our little way of introducing. The one thing I did tell Troy was that it needs to be 1995. That was the only thing that I told him. So it's 1995, everybody. We're starting a campaign, and it's going to start in New York City in 1995. So I want to just go through a few ground rules, and then we're going to get cooking right on creating characters. So ground rules / notes of the campaign, whatever you want to call it. So 1995, New York City. I'm going to require, and hopefully this makes it simpler for you, that your character be based in New York City, at least for Delta Green purposes. They don't have to be born in New York City, but they need to be based there for Delta Green purposes. I'm going to let you do your thing kind of open-ended in how you approach things, but you may see me nudge you every once in a while in certain directions if you're talking about stuff for things that will make your character relevant to the campaign. It is sort of a long-term process, and it wouldn't make any sense for Delta Green to call in someone that would have no expertise in anything involved, with the campaign. So I may nudge you here and there, but I want to start off by saying nothing and just letting you do your thing. Last thing I want to say is kind of two things. Is the Delta Green that you played in 2009, like when we first started this game, actually doesn't exist in 1995 in the lore of the world. Delta Green did not become a sanctioned government organization until 2002, during its period dark, what they call the cowboy years sometimes, between roughly 1970 and mid-90s. So you are in a time when Delta Green is completely illegal. And I'm just going to read this one line from it's actually from the Handler's Guide. The group has no legal sanction. How can they take their work to lawmakers when threats are so deadly that even seeing the work is dangerous? So you have to operate completely off the grid. So in 1995, to protect themselves, Delta Green is still called Delta Green, but it operates under a series of anonymous cells that only sort of communicate with each other. And all you need to know is that you are part of M Cell, M as in Mary, Cell, based in New York City. Each agent goes by an alias with the title Agent, and then a name that begins with M. That is how you're identified to other agents within the cell as well as to agents outside of the cell. And what this does is keep your real identity secret even from the people you go on operations with within Delta Green. It's Tarantino, what is it? The Reservoir Dogs. It's like Reservoir Dogs. So, whether
came out a few years ago.
Yeah, that new movie, Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, you will refer to each other as your aliases. That's all your characters would know of each other. And look, you're free to reveal your identity if you want to, but you do it at your own risk in this world where even the government, even all the people in law enforcement, no one can be trusted to keep you safe. If you're what's the word I'm looking for? Unmasked, shall we say?
Compromised.
If you're compromised, then you have a very real chance of just going immediately to prison. Now, there are people within Delta Green that might be able to help you that are hidden within these organizations, but it is not sanctioned from the top. So that's what you need to know. So that's all I'm going to say.
You're like Mike Smith, or you're just Mike?
You're just Agent Mike. You have one name. So it could be a last name sounding. It could be a first name sounding. It's whatever you want to do. Agent Matthew, Agent Miles, Agent Marcus. It can be anything that starts with an M.
I've got mine.
Fantastic.
I'm going to be Agent Messiah.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, we're always struggling with your inferiority complex, Roger.
Raj.
Just need some
Down a little bit,
confidence.
Raj. Turn down a little bit.
What's something that'll fly under the radar? Call me Messiah.
Call me Messiah. All right, well, let's get into it then. Character names, character aliases, all that stuff can come as we get through it. But I think I'm going to start with Roger. And the other idea I just had, Skid, is I'm going to pull from the Twilight 2000 playlist, and I'll play a little 90s alternative in the background to get you in the zone.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help you.
Bombastic by Shaggy.
I wish I had something that fit that.
Classic 90s.
It'll just be a little bit more rock. But anyway, the first thing I actually haven't decided on yet is how we're going to do ability scores, or stats, as they call it in Delta Green. Your 6 main stats. Do we want to roll for them, or do we want to do a point-buy system? I have no preference. I feel like it doesn't change the balance of the game at all, regardless of how the characters all play out. What would be your... In fact, we don't all have to do one thing or another. Some people can do point-buy, some people can roll.
Because we won't agree.
All right, great.
Yeah,
Let's do that option, and you can pick whatever you want. And I'm going to start with Roger Comstone. And first, we don't have to do stats first. I guess we can do stats first because you kind of know your character concept. Yeah. So why don't we start with stats, and then Troy will work into your profession next. If you want to change that. Because essentially what we're doing is we're rebuilding Roger here, and you don't necessarily have to build the same Roger. I'm just telling you that. You don't have to do that.
How does the point buy work? Because I want to do point buy. I want to min-max, basically.
All right, so the point buy is 72 points total that you have to split between the 6 scores.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So
I'll get to work on
I
that.
sent you that Google sheet, and it does it for you. It's all it's a drop-down menu for each stat, and as you add to it, it will reduce the amount of points you have left.
What's the lowest a score can be? 8?
7.
7. Okay.
I believe.
I know I'm going to do a 7 charisma.
There you go. Good start.
I used to have an 8. But, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to pour my points into strength, constitution, and power, and then probably intelligence over dex. So I'll just kind of play around with that.
Okay. Sounds good. Then why don't we move to Skid while you're doing, to Sydney while you're doing that. Sid, I want to see what concepts you're thinking about. We don't have to talk about stats right now. We could talk about professions, maybe?
Yeah. I had an idea, and I think I'm going to have to build my own, but I guess technically they're a federal agent, so maybe I can do federal agent. But I had this idea that I wanted to create a U.S. postal worker, like a U.S. postal inspection worker, like somebody who deals with bombs in the mail and like the dangerous side of the postal service, I guess.
Oh my God,
Okay.
I actually have a friend who works for like the armed law enforcement of the U.S. Postal Service. No joke.
Oh, so they're a U.S. postal worker with a gun.
Yes, they investigate, they get warrants, they arrest. It's
That's
awesome.
what I want to do.
Like mail fraud and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
It's the guys who arrested Steve Bannon. Like those were the people that arrested him.
Dude, he
I
like
think it's
interrogates
awesome
people.
because
It's
they're
so
like
good.
nerds. I mean, like they're like nerds, but the good, like they're like good cop nerds.
Totally.
But I want to do something like that, and I think like the forgery too. I think that's really interesting. So maybe they could have a background in like anthropology or something, and kind of be good with forgery.
Yeah, I mean, you can certainly put extra skill points into anthropology as one of your bonus skills. I don't think under federal agent you would necessarily get anthropology automatically.
No, you don't.
Yeah, the base of federal agent doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. Like, well, I don't know, maybe alertness, but like you could certainly have forensics, criminology, bureaucracy, law. Like those all fit really well for your concept.
And search and persuade. Yeah, I think maybe federal agent is the best way to go, because I feel like you kind of miss out when you make your own character. You don't really get as many. You only get 3 bonds, et cetera, et cetera. So I think I'm going to do... Oh, you only get... How many do you get as a federal agent? 3 bonds. That's the same. All right, I think I'm going to do federal agent.
Postal inspector. Postal inspectors are federal law enforcement agents with investigative jurisdiction in all criminal matters involving integrity and security of the U.S. Postal Service.
Ooh, okay.
So cool.
Federal agent it is, I guess. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Stamp
Sweet.
police.
The stamp police.
That's a derogatory
I'll kick
term
your
for
ass.
that
Anybody who's
dude,
calling
yeah,
me a stamp police.
Agent Mary, stamp police.
Stamp cop.
It's like Agent Bookman from that Seinfeld library
Yeah,
episode.
Philip Baker Hall, yeah.
I'm picturing in the beginning of, we were just talking about True Detective in the very beginning when Matthew McConaughey is talking to the women at the bar, and he's just like, I'm murder police. Sitting down and be like, I'm stamp police. Don't mess with me.
Stamp police.
Tough racket.
It's a tough racket. Yeah, I don't care about your petty drug smuggling. I'm stamp police. Okay. All right, cool. Awesome. So do you have, what is the other concept here in terms of, is it a man? Is it a woman? Is it younger, older? What are you thinking?
So I had an idea to make a woman, and she got into the U.S. Postal Service because her ex-husband, who died, was in it, and he kind of like grandfathered her in and got her a job. So she maybe is not like fully qualified for some aspects, but she's high ranking in it. And she's kind of like in it for the long run. And then her husband died, and everyone's kind of like, oh, okay, like she has to keep her job, like her husband died. But I feel like maybe she doesn't really fit the mold of it, which is possibly why she veers toward Delta Green, because something's up. Like something's a little weird with her. Something's going on. I haven't figured that out yet. But I think she's from Long Island.
Okay.
Does that work, Joe?
Yeah, that works. I mean, does she live there, or does she live in the city? Or is she just from Long Island, or does she live in Long Island?
No, she lives in Queens now.
She lives in Queens. Okay, yeah, that works for sure. The stats. Well, I guess stats are going to be a mixture of intelligence, charisma, and power, I believe, for a federal agent. I mean, you can do whatever you want. These are the suggested like stats that you... Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's con, power, and charisma. So constitution, power, and charisma is the recommended stats for a federal agent. Yeah, I would imagine that as part of your job, you get into some dangerous stuff. But I also think... Now, here's something that could be useful to you is don't sleep on bureaucracy. I think it can be kind of a sleepy skill, but with your background and the connection you have to being high up and all that stuff, you might want to put a little bit extra in bureaucracy, and that could definitely help in the campaign.
I think I'm really going to lean into the like psychology, human intelligence, bureaucracy, charisma, because I feel like I like to make my characters talk in game and like to solve things, but I don't necessarily stack them with those skills to back it up with the roles. So I think this time I'm going to do the right thing and make her charismatic and good with actual people.
Okay, great. So persuade might be good. I'd also think about forensics because of your job. You need to be able to look at a piece of mail and identify handwriting or fingerprints or dust, or you know what I mean? Yeah. That's all forensics. So think about that as well.
Yeah, so true. Okay, I think I'm gonna buy stats as well. I wanted to roll, but I'm gonna do it the right way and make it make sense for her.
Okay.
What's the max we can do?
Also, I should say, when you roll, you don't just like, here's my strength. Like you roll 6, and then you can put them wherever you want. So you could put your highest wherever you want, and your second highest wherever you want. I mean, that's by the book.
Right. So, and then what is the thing? You roll how many, and you choose the best ones? Was that another way to do it?
You roll 4d6, and you keep the best 3, and you add them up, and whatever that number is. And you can't go lower than 7, and you can't go higher than 18, I think, at creation.
Yeah, it's 18, I think. All right. And maybe
I should change my 40 strength.
Yes. You just put all those points into strength.
Put them all in that pendulum.
All right. Skid, how you feeling? Can I come around and check in on you, or got anything cooking?
The only thing, I don't know. The only thing is, well, part is like I've had ideas. I've had some different ideas, but like, I want to do something that I haven't done before, which is getting more and more difficult the more shows we do.
Right.
Like I had the idea of, I wanted to do at one point a character based on Neil Breen, the renegade filmmaker. But I mean, I've already done like media stuff. You know, I've done the last 2 Delta Greens. I've done that, so I don't want to do that. The thing that we're always...
What about? Hold on. Let me make a suggestion.
Okay.
What about a mid-90s filmmaker? Like a documentary filmmaker is different than an author, and is I will say one thing that would benefit you make you interesting in the campaign is having an art skill. So art cinematography or art photography, or director of photography or something like that could be very interesting. Okay. Because there's an art community element to the campaign that could be kind of cool.
Okay.
Skid, also, this might derail from the art thing, but I don't know if you remember the last Legacy of the Ancients recording. As we were finishing, you said maybe you would do a minor league Cyclone player.
I did. I talked about that too, but then I realized that was basically my character from our Vampire the Masquerade game. So.
Oh my God, it was.
Right. Yeah.
I had forgotten that too.
Damn, you played too many games, Skid.
I know. That's the
Too many
thing. I'm
games.
doing too many games. But
What if you were just an NYPD cop?
Straight up and down.
come back to me.
Cop, a good cop.
All right, I'll come back to you. It sounded like, Francis, you came in with an idea. We've all been waiting.
I got something.
You got something. Okay.
All right.
Yes.
I am an intelligence analyst for the Central Intelligence Agency.
Awesome.
I wanted to be a kind of like, in the field guy, but I couldn't cut it because I'm not quite as physically like adept as like a Roger Comstone, if you will. But I've got the smarts, so I sit there and I dive through the info, I sort it, I sift it, I find those hidden pieces. I was working at CIA hunting double agents inside the FBI and CIA. A few years back, I helped the team.
Counterintelligence.
Counterintelligence. I helped the team inside the CIA hunt down Aldrich Ames, which actually happened in 1994. Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. What a great reference.
Yeah. So that gave me skills, but I'm also kind of a pariah because I'm in there digging into all these agents who are like, screw you, you're checking in my past? Go fuck yourself, buddy. So
oh my God, this is amazing.
I got a lot of friends in the CIA, but I get the job done. I have, so for the intelligence
Hold
analyst.
on, before you go on, I just want to say, for those that may be listening, watching, and not know the Aldrich Ames reference is an amazing reference. Aldrich Ames is the single greatest, most horrific, damaging turncoat traitor mole in the history of the CIA. Yeah. He sold the actual identities of spies in the Cold War for decades and was never found. And all those guys got killed. And women, I assume, that were spying over there, got murdered by the Russians. And the Russians, the actual Russians that had turned and were working for the CIA within, he burned all of them as well. I mean, it was the most tragic. And so you were part of the team that finally hunted him down and got him. Awesome. It was so corrupt within the agency that even those above him knew he was incompetent and they kept him around, and so you were one of the ones that brought him down. That's amazing.
Yeah, we helped bring him down. We had a team. It was solid. And that's so great that you know that too. I was reading about it the other night. I was like, oh, this is fucking sweet. I mean, this guy lived for decades on money he made from Russia, just living, and he had all these cars, and he was living the oh my God, it was awful. Yeah, he was a drunk too. He was just he would just drink, and it was awesome. But so we helped. We helped the team. We took him down.
So I have intelligence officer, and then you're intelligence analyst.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm thinking he's more. He was in the 90s. He was more Russia focused or whatever, because everybody was worried about Russia. But he's got a lot of bureaucracy, and he used a lot of the kind of forensic accounting skills to get at Aldrich Ames. So that's kind of his real.
Yeah. Okay. So accounting is going to be one of your higher skills.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
great.
about all I got so far.
Okay. That's good. That's good. Well, then why don't we talk about some stats here? So are you, do you want to do the point buy, or do you want to roll for stats?
I like the roll. I like the randoms.
Like the roll? Okay.
Yeah.
Great, then let's do it. Let's do it live. You're going to roll 4 D6s. Uh-huh. We'll drop the lowest, take the other ones, and we'll see what we get.
All right, rolling. All right, I'm dropping with a 1. I got, 5, 9. I got 12 points.
12, good. Okay, next one.
Next one. That's a low one. I got 7, 8, 9. Sorry, 9.
9, okay.
Yikes.
I have 9 again. Wow.
Oh no.
Turn
it around.
Come
It's
on,
too
baby.
average.
Give me something. Oh, Jesus. Okay. 10.
10. Okay.
I got 10. All right. Let's
Okay.
wait. Is that how many? Oh,
Yeah, that's 4. You've got
That's
you've
4.
got 2
Okay.
more to do. Come
I got 2
on.
more. Oh, okay.
16, 17. Come on.
Big money. That's 11. Okay, I'll take 11. I'm climbing slowly. And
It makes sense that you were not fit for the field.
Right.
yeah, it really does. It really
Put
does.
these 9s
Another
in
11.
strength and con.
And roll up
Another
a second
11.
character after this one.
I might have to. I got that last one was 11. So
And
yeah,
another
mine-
11. Okay,
yeah.
wow. He's a very
Yeah.
average, as
Very
as you
average.
get.
I'm an analyst. I'm not.
yeah, he's an analyst.
I'm not
Okay.
a field guy. Okay, I'm not a field guy.
Okay, great. So then, so I would say I would recommend. Do you want to do 9s in strength and con? Just because
Yeah.
you're saying you weren't fit for the field.
Yeah.
Okay, then. I guess you're 12. You want that in intelligence, maybe power.
Yeah, to intelligence, I think has got to be the top, the big guy. Yeah, so I'll put 12 in intelligence.
Okay, 11. You got 2 11s. Do
2
you
11s.
You want those in power, of dex?
1 in dex,
charisma?
1 in charisma. Because I feel like I kind of gotta.
Okay.
Well, maybe not, because I have. I rubbed some people the wrong way when I was doing my investigation. So maybe we'll put that 11 power.
11 in power, 10 in charisma.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. And let's go back to Roger. Did you finish filling out your stats? Now, in the meantime, hold on a second.
Yeah.
In the meantime, Francis, the intelligence analyst breakdown will give you all your professional skills.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and write those all in on your sheet. It's on page. Oh, jeez. The page
got
number's
it.
not listed. It's on
think I
page
got it.
24 of the handbook.
Got
It'll
it.
tell you which skills come with the intelligence analyst.
those are all
Anthropology, bureaucracy, computer
percentages,
science,
right?
etc.
Okay. Got it.
I'm curious about what our computer science is going to look like in 1995. Be
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh yeah.
You'll be probably proficient with MS-DOS and then like getting into the Windows sort of.
AOL.
I
Yeah,
heard
an
about this
expert.
crazy new thing called Netscape. It's weird.
Let me hack into his Magellan.
I had a Netscape email address. It was my first email
God.
address. And it's so sad because I would love to recover God knows who I was talking to in the 90s, but it's gone. I mean, it's just completely gone. There's no way to recover it. It's so sad.
Oh man,
That is kind of
would've been
sad.
like-
So much of the early internet is just gone.
Yeah,
like 90%
that
of
would've
it is just
That would have been a
vanished.
great time capsule of like what was going on in like 93 or 94, whatever.
Yeah. Let's go back to Roger.
Okay.
Are your stats finished?
Stats are finished, I think. So I went with a 17 strength, a 13 con, 11 dex, 10 intelligence, 14 power, and a 7 charisma.
Okay. So for those that don't know, power is associated directly with those sanity points. So power is all about your resilience of your mind against the emotional impact of anything from real life to the unnatural. How do you handle it? How do you handle yourself? So that's a pretty high score.
Yeah, I thought about going 15 power and 10 dex, but the way these stats are, you can only punt on 1, maybe 2. I just figure like he's more dexterous than 11, but I don't want to bring my con, my strength, or my power down. And where my profession is special ops, like the 3 that they suggest focusing on are strength, con, and power. So, I wish my dex was a little better for like dodge rolls and stuff, but that's not what he does.
Okay. What profession are you thinking about?
Special ops.
Okay. All right. So special ops, and you got those skills that come with those, and
Yeah, and you add those to the base, right?
yeah, you add those to the base. Unless
Yeah.
it says 60. Actually, I don't think you add those to the base. If it
sure?
says if it says 60, your professional skills don't start above 60. You can get them to 80 using your bonus spend. From what I remember, I could be
Okay.
wrong, but I remember reading that somewhere.
Okay.
But I'll keep looking into it.
Yeah, because I had an 80 alertness before, and special ops makes it 60, so it's possible I just went up But we also may not have known the rules when we first played this.
Yeah, it's very possible.
But I'll look into that and make sure that I add those. But his type of things are like alertness, athletics, demolitions, obviously firearms, heavy weapons, military science, land. He's stealthy and unarmed combat.
Okay. Awesome.
Because he had, how many confirmed kills? 323 confirmed kills?
323 confirmed kills.
Jesus.
He
Roger's
The most
demolished,
deadly American in the history of war.
he demolished several hospitals.
It's like the Audie Murphy of the Gulf War.
Explains a lot more about Roger.
And Special Ops gives me 2 bonds, and that's what I like. I don't want him to be too tied down to bonds.
Yeah, okay. Oh, right. Your bond scores are going to be so low. That's another thing that we're going to get into here in a few minutes is your bonds. So choosing your bonds means the people in your life that kind of keep you grounded in the real world, and also the people ultimately, or groups, it could be, that you fight for, that you do this for. Delta Green itself is so incredibly dangerous. So at the edge of you're pushing your body and your mind to the point where you could easily die at any point on an operation. Why would you do that? You have to answer that question, and sometimes that might be your bonds. All right, I will come back to you, Skid. Any movement?
Yeah, I think I know what I want to do.
All right, great.
So I think I'm going to do... I was going to say, the one thing that we always regret not having, except for the one campaign, is a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also thinking, I like the filmmaker idea. So I think thinking that kind of the tradition of like a Ken Jeong or Graham Chapman, this is someone who was a doctor, but gave it up to be an avant-garde filmmaker living in the village.
Awesome. And okay, so what does that mean exactly? An avant-garde filmmaker? It means you make independent films that are like short films, stuff like that. So not weird. Documentarian. They're like weird films.
Yeah. Well, he probably makes documentaries too. Like it's kind of like a Werner Herzog kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he patterned himself after a kind of a Werner Herzog. Not that I put myself in his class necessarily, but that's sort of an aspirational thing.
He's definitely got a Kim's membership. Yeah. He's totally got a Kim's membership.
Oh my God, this guy in the village. This is amazing.
He's at Kim's on St. Mark's every day.
Oh, you know it.
Did that copy of Fitzcarraldo get returned? I was here last week. I don't know if you remember.
The number of times I've put Fitzcarraldo back on the shelf.
That's amazing, Skid. That is so amazing.
Fitzcarraldo.
Oh my God.
So I figure I'll just take like the base position skill set, and then with my bonus skills, I'll put like 3 of those 20% bonuses into art.
You know what? Why don't you and I... Let's reconnect on this off air, because I love this idea, and I think what you could do is experiment with something we haven't done before. And I don't know if we want to do it on the show. Mm-hmm. Build a new profession. So it's right in here, and you could do the profession from scratch, and it's just basically you pick 10 skills and divide 400 skill points between them. And then you can change that number based on your bonds. So you start with 3 bonds. If you go to 4 bonds, which is the max, you reduce your professional skills by 50. And if you go down to 2 bonds, you increase your professional skills by 50. So the idea being the more you are into your work and your skills, the less time you have for bonds and family. But remember, bonds and family are not simply narrative. They are also the way in which you can shrug off sanity damage. What is it called, Troy? You've done this before. When you put your sanity damage onto your bond, deflect. It's not
deflect it to your bond. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's deflect. Well, I don't remember. But yeah,
I can't remember the term, but yeah.
Yeah. You something onto your bond.
Something it to your bonds. Yeah. And so the more bonds you have and the more points you have within bonds, the greater your ability to reduce sanity damage over a longer period of time. So you can stay sane longer. So anyway, we can talk about that later. But
that's why Roger's relationship with his ex-wife was getting so bad, because he kept deflecting, or whatever that word is, pushing the sanity loss.
Projecting.
That's what it is. There you go.
Okay.
By the way, I looked it up on page 20 of the Agent's Handbook. The skills that come with your profession replace the base skills.
Yeah. I thought that the 60 was the max before you added your bonus. So 60 is the max. Then you can add your bonus. The max you can do is 80. I was looking at stats, by the way, and it says minimum of 3, maximum of 18. So I guess you could go down super low. I'm not sure what that would mean for things like charisma or whatever, but yeah, I don't know. It seems pretty wild, but I don't know where I pulled that 7 from. I feel like at creation it was 7 to whatever, but I could be wrong.
I read that somewhere too. I feel like
Joe, just to be clear, you said it replaces the base, so you don't add it to the base.
Correct. Your professional skills, you don't add to the base. Now, if during your bonus skills, all of you are going to get 8 bonus skills that you can add 20% to. Some of those can overlap and be your professional skills, but those you add to the base. So, a Delta Green agent has a base firearms usually of like 20% or something like that. Like they're trained basically to use firearms. If you use your 20% there, your firearms go to 40%. You add it on top.
Gotcha.
Okay. Awesome. I think, so what's going to happen now is basically, is everybody good on stats? Are you statted out? Skid, are you statted, Sid, are you statted out?
Yeah, I ended up rolling, and I did very middle of the ground rolls, but I think that's fine. So I've got like 11, 13, 11, 13, 14. So
okay,
I think it's fine.
What is your highest stat?
My highest stat is charisma, and then I followed with their recommendations, though, and my next 2 highest are con and power. So
that's good. You'll be the face.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I want to roll too, though. I'm going to roll.
Okay, great. Yeah, let's do it. You go ahead, Skid.
I was actually doing some spring cleaning, and I found my old gold-plated Roman replica 6-sided dice.
Yeah, I remember those.
These for Galabras' channeling back in the
I was
day,
just going to say, I used to channel with those with Galabras.
Yeah. So I'll use those in addition to my precious, even more precious Norse Foundry metal D6. 13.
Good start.
Great start. Yep.
All right. 13's first one. 8.
Okay.
All right.
I also like the method of going right down and just rolling if you have no character concept, and then building the profession and the character out of the stats. Yeah.
12.
Okay, that's good. Solid.
10.
Okay. Come on, Skid. Get a 16er.
That is 9. Come on, man.
Come on. Get at least a 14.
Got one more. 17.
Oh, 17.
Nice.
Oh, amazing.
Nice.
Wow. Saved by the bell. That is amazing.
Feeling unprepared.
Whoa, so
I'm feeling unprepared, guys.
feeling outmatched in this group.
Just looking at the numbers. Oh, God. I might lose my shit.
Okay, so I'm not going to go through all the skill numbers of everybody, but see, look at it this way. Skid, you will work on yours later, but the professional skills they all get laid out. Then you get 8 skills that you add 20% to. And among those skills, I would say, based on the campaign, some things that stick out that I think are typically not in the forefront of players' stat sheets are things like bureaucracy, which I mentioned, art, which I loosely mentioned, craft, and it could be any kind of, just saying, people usually don't put anything in these. Think of these things because it could be relevant. Engineering or architecture, those kind of things would be interesting in this campaign. And sometimes these can be as simple as like hobbies. They don't have to necessarily be tied to your profession. It could be a hobby that you pursue, which is another thing that they say in character creation here. It's not an actual stat or mechanic or anything, but they say, make sure you pick a hobby for your character. Like little things like that help to flesh out the character.
So I got a question. When we're picking the bonus skills, if they're not skills that we have already in our profession, do we start out at 20%, or is it?
So I've shared with you the Google sheet of a character sheet.
Right.
The skills that are on that character sheet, some of them have 20%, some of them have 10%, some of them have 30%. Those are the base. You start at that. But other ones are at 0%, like surgery. You don't just start with something in surgery because of your basic training. All the other ones represent the basic training of a Delta Green agent. You wouldn't really be brought on if you didn't have a 20% in search, for example, looking for something. You have a 20%. If you want to put more into it, you can. But you have a certain base that you start with. Even unarmed combat is interesting. Unarmed combat starts at 40% because you have to be trained. If you're a federal agent or if you're a DG agent, you have to be trained in combat in some way. Unarmed combat is the most common one to train people in, so you do that. Firearms will start at a base of 20%, stuff like that. Driving, dodging, those kind of things. But things like demolitions or law or field science, you're not going to know those things without specialized training.
Joe, I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm between two of my additional skills, and I'm either going to choose foreign language, which I don't know if it'll ever come up, or pharmacy. But I guess I would only choose pharmacy to link it to forensics, to understanding drugs and stuff. Does that make sense game-wise if I chose pharmacy, or is that medicine?
That's a good question. I don't know. I like your interpretation of it. We could read pharmacy right here. Knowledge of drugs, from their ingredients and creation to their effects, uses, and misuses. Use it to identify and produce medicines and antidotes as well as poisons. Identifying a drug requires at least 20% skill. Preparing a particularly powerful drug safely, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, you could do pharmacy. That's good. I also saw another one here I wanted to mention, which sometimes gets slipped over. It didn't when Matthew created a character, but I don't hear it mentioned much in our games. Psychotherapy is a skill that doesn't get mentioned much, but it's very interesting because it can kind of work hand in hand or almost in addition to HUMINT, which we all know is always an applicable skill. But psychotherapy allows you to really understand the inner workings of a mind, of a given mind, and how it operates. So I don't know. I was thinking, Sydney, that it could be something interesting for you. Someone with such high charisma that knows how to move through the ranks, all this kind of stuff. It could be HUMINT, but you're also talking about I think with the mail, right, where you're doing handwriting analysis and word usage, vocabulary, that could be psychotherapy where you're, where you're thinking about how someone thinks and how they go about, just trying to find a serial killer by working back from their notes, right? That kind of stuff.
Totally. Yeah. I dumped into human, and it's pretty high, but I have extra. Can I put double additional bonuses into a single skill? Can I add 40 to a single skill?
Yeah, you can take, as long as you don't go over 80, you can take those 20-point blocks and put them wherever you want.
Okay.
My understanding is that you can't, Skid, and I could be wrong about that, but it just says choose 8 skills to put 20% in. It doesn't say take 20%, 8, I don't know. I could be wrong.
I'll double check. Either way, I can do it for the psychotherapy, and I think I might do that, but I'll look at my numbers.
Pick any 8 skills and add 20 points to each. If it's not a professional skill, add the 20 points to the base rating. If it's a professional skill, add to its current score. This allows your agent to specialize in certain professional skills or to learn a little about skills not included in his or her profession.
Okay. Well,
Skid. You're right. You can even boost a skill more than once, adding plus 20 each time. Unless the handler says otherwise, you can't raise a skill higher than 80% during agent creation. So yeah, Skid, you are right.
Awesome.
I'm gonna do that.
Like Matthew, I didn't read the last sentence of the paragraph. Okay, so you guys derive statistics. Hit points is going to be your strength plus your con divided by 2. Willpower points is going to be equal to your power score, just straight up equal to your power score. Oh, also strength plus con divided by 2 rounded up. You don't round down for that, for your HP. Your sanity points is your power times 5. And then your breaking point is your sanity points minus your power.
And your sheet here that you gave us, it calculates it all for us.
Yep, it did it all for you.
That's
If you
so
used
cool.
the other sheet, it does it for you.
This is great. This is the best worksheet
Joe,
that
I
we've worked
totally
off of. This is great.
forgot that Joe gave us this awesome worksheet. I was putting in my PDF like an idiot.
Like a dope.
Way to
Yeah.
go, Grandma.
I saw you in
It's
the,
the
in the
90s,
sheet,
hello.
Sid, so I thought you were using it.
I have
but-
it open. My cursor's like blinking in Google Docs. I'm just not using it. I'm going to put it in right now so you can see, Joe. Sorry.
Joe-
No, all good.
Am I misremembering this or crossing over from other games? Can you not put points into Unnatural or something? Because
What a fantastic question, and very interesting that you brought it up.
We can't,
why I brought
right?
it up.
We
You
cannot
can't.
do that.
You can only do it in game.
Right.
You cannot put any points into Unnatural in character creation, with the one exception of Roger Comstone,
Oh, okay.
which, due to this entry scene, as a reward for this entry scene that you so brilliantly put together, I'm going to give you 2 points in Unnatural.
Whoa. I don't like that.
You then
like
also
that.
have to lower your sanity by 2 points. Your max sanity.
Oh, that's how
wow.
it works.
You want to play this same broken character, you're going to get a little unnatural, but you're also going to lose a little sanity.
wow, it doesn't like that
He's
I did
good.
that on this worksheet.
Oh, it doesn't? Did it go nuts?
Yeah, I have to just override it by putting my sanity in, but it made my breaking point go down. Wow, so I've Unnatural of 2. That is
Wow.
that's crazy. You know what?
Yeah.
Let me do an Unnatural roll. Just got to roll one of 2 numbers out of 100.
Yeah, I mean, it is truly. I think that the way that they put it, I don't know this exactly, but I think that it's something like once you get in the range of like 20% or something like that, an agent is broken and done with Delta Green and out of it. Like that is actually knowing the Unnatural is very different from what you would call an occult skill, which Roger was looking into in season 2.
Yeah.
That's different. That's the practices and religions around the rumors of the Unnatural, right? The theories of the theology of the Unnatural. This is like actually having actual knowledge of how the Unnatural is and works is dangerous for any mind to have any of. So just,
Oh, that's
we'll
great.
start
Now
with 2%.
I'm done with my bonus skills then.
Okay. Anything interesting to point out? Anything
I went
different?
back to I kind of now that we've played the game a little bit, I know so much more about what I used and what I didn't use. So I didn't put. I think originally I had an 80 in unarmed combat. I kept it at 60 because that's great, and instead made my melee weapons go from 50 to 70. So I'm 70 with melee weapons, and then I have my firearms at 80 instead of 60, like old Roger, because then maybe I won't miss with a sniper rifle. And of course, I kept my alertness. I bumped that up to 80 because he was just like, he's so hyper aware of his surroundings.
Hypervigilance disorder.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I imagine he's a one-trick pony. There's certain things he cannot do, but like as we've seen, like there's certain things that only he can do.
Yes. We will see how that all plays. Oh my God, your human is 10%. You just can't read people.
Yeah, no, he can't.
Brutal.
He doesn't understand people. He only knows how to kill them.
Okay. Fair enough. Oh, this is going to be so interesting as I think about what is ahead. This is so neat. All right, let's start talking about. We're going to move into bonds here, but the first thing that I want to do is go around the room. Everybody else, professional skills and or skills in general, and you can skip it, Skid, unless you wanted to mention something you're going to put to 80 or something. Any highlights of your skills? Anything? What are you most skilled at, or something you didn't do before that you're interested in? I'll go you first, Francis. Is there anything that you really pumped up? You want your character to be excellent at?
I've got some cool things going on here with my criminology. Because I just went ahead and picked one of the bonus skill packages for criminalists because I felt like that worked well with my guy.
Oh, good call. Yeah, the bonus skill packages are also an interesting way to approach it.
Yeah, I just went with that just so I it just picked all the skills to enhance. So I got criminology up to 60. I've got bureaucracy up to 70. And
awesome.
like computer science, I think right now is also computer science is just at a 40, but still I'm happy with it. I can surf your 90s internet for you. No worries.
Okay. Great. You know what would do me like a whole lot of help? What would be a whole huge help for me is for you to actually do a little research into 90s computer science.
Oh my God, yeah.
Maybe just say like
totally.
what were the AOL, Prodigy, whatever.
Prodigy
all
was
that
a
shit.
big deal.
I am not a master of like remembering how everything worked in the 90s, so help me out with your character while you play.
That was totally my wheelhouse. That was what I was doing in the 90s. I had my Tandy desktop computer, and I was geeking out on like my 56.6K baud, kilobaud.
56K modem. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the references.
It's gonna be great.
What about you, Sid? Any standout skills?
I'm kind of forming her. I liked what you were saying because her human was already high and I added to it. So she's got 80. And then I added double the psychotherapy, giving her 50 in that. And then she also had high bureaucracy to start with, but I added more. She's got 60 in that, 50 in criminology. So she's really good at people. Like she's maybe not a friendly person. I haven't decided, but like you said, with analyzing things through the postal service, through mail, through handwriting, through any clues, like she's really good at figuring out who this person is, where they live, what their motive is, how old they are, like stuff like that. Just she's kind of like got Sherlock Holmes brain where she'll, be talking about something and someone's like, how the fuck, how do you know that? And she's like, well, clearly the ink that they're using is from a Bic pen, which was made in blah, blah. Like she's got this stupid knowledge about stuff. So yeah, I think that's what I'm leaning into, her people skills.
That's awesome. She sounds just like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes.
All right, let's move on to bonds. Bonds, I want to point out at this stage, are going to be more important. I want them to be more important than they have been in the past in our games, where they were very important. But in this game, in this campaign, I think it's going to be essential that they are more involved and that they are more directly related to the ins and outs of our sessions. We don't really have the opportunity for Operation Home Scene. So home scenes are going to be happening throughout, and they'll be just more involved in the story. It's going to be important. So I want you to think of people that could be close by, potentially, and people that you would interact with on a daily basis. People who, if they didn't hear from you for 3 days, would be like, something's wrong here. I'm not saying all 4 or all 3 of your bonds have to be like that, but maybe at least one that like expects to see you every day, right? Like, keep that in mind as you're coming up with these ideas. I'm going to start with Troy again, with Roger, and then we'll start kicking it around. Roger, you already had bonds before. What has changed, if anything?
Well, his previous bonds was his ex-wife, Norma, and his parakeet, Steve.
I love how you put her name in there. That was awesome. His parakeet, Steve.
Steve.
So now that he's, going to be in New York, his bonds are his love interest, Norma.
Oh.
Right, in 95.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because, I think he's going to follow her to New York to see if there's a spark there.
Cumstone year 1.
Cumstone year 1, exactly.
I want to see that. I want to see that comic book cover
by Frank Miller.
And his African gray parrot, Jimmy.
Oh no, what happened to Jimmy?
The story of what happened to Jimmy. We'll find out. We'll have to look back. Amazing. Okay, so he's a real parrot guy.
Yeah, he likes birds.
Birdman. He's a real Birdman.
A parrot head. He loves Jimmy Buffett.
Yes,
it's because deep down inside, Roger just wants to fly. He's delicate like
That's really what it comes down to.
He's just soft and delicate inside. Light as a feather.
Anybody else have a bond they want to
How do you
mention?
figure out the score of the bond? Sorry.
It's your charisma score.
Oh, jeepers.
Oh, God.
I was wondering when that would come to haunt.
Yeah. You know what? The other thing that I wanted to mention, I'm sorry I forgot about it before, is there anything that you can tell me about Norma? Like, is there anything now that you can tell me about Norma? Do you know how old she is right now? What she's into? What's her career? Do you know any of that stuff?
She's mid-20s. They met at a bar in Baltimore, we'll say, somewhere on Fells Point. And they had this one-night stand. She went back to her job in New York. And so I think we're going to see he follows her out there and falls in love. And we know, at least in the original timeline, that he marries her and gets divorced, but they have a child. And then you mentioned a daughter. Like, I didn't know anything about a daughter. He has a son. They had a son, Cal. Yeah, I don't know what she does for work yet. I don't know. I think they met at a bar. She was there. Maybe she's there for work or they're visiting a friend. But he just has no connections to anyone since he came back from the Gulf War. And so he's got his parrot, and he really felt a connection with her, enough so that he's going to pick up shop and follow her to New York.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think he felt a connection? Like, are they into the same things, or what about her drew him to her?
She didn't mind that he was broken, I think. I don't know if she wanted to fix him, if she's that type of person. Like, I could fix him. I think she just didn't make him feel different for being broken. Whereas other people look at him like he's crazy, and that sometimes makes him act even crazier.
And do you know what she does? You said she returned to New York for work.
Yeah, maybe she's in advertising.
Okay, she works on Madison Avenue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fun.
Great. And then Jimmy, any details? Where'd you get Jimmy?
What can you say about Jimmy?
What hasn't been already said? What can be said that hasn't already been said?
Yeah, he's just always been fascinated by birds. Maybe, as Francis said, it's just he just wants to spread his own wings and fly. But
you gotta let me fly.
Ever since he was a kid, he wanted to move. He always had this dream of going to live on a tropical island, because he was a loner as a kid too. And I think he had pictures on his wall or something of islands and parrots and whatnot. So he's always had this affinity with birds and parrots. So when he came back and was having trouble, making connections with people, he didn't want a dog because he doesn't really like dogs. So he thought, I'll get a parrot. So he bought Jimmy.
Okay, that's great. Sid, you got a bond?
Yeah, I've got two. I've got one more I still got to figure out. But so I decided her husband's not dead. She has what is going to be an ex-husband, but they're not divorced yet. They're just separated right now. It's kind of complicated. Okay. His name is Christopher DiPiazza. And her name, I figured out her name.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I think so. What is her name? It's on my other sheet. Vicky Ricci.
Vicky Ricci.
Vicky Ricci.
Oh my God, she does sound like a Long Island federal agent.
Vicky Ricci.
Very Italian. Husband and ex-husband's also very Italian. So that's a complicated bond because I think she's she needs him even though that they're separated. So I think they're absolutely in contact. He would be worried if she disappeared type of thing. So I think it'll work. Still got to figure that out. And then her other bond is her AA sponsor, Sarah.
Okay. So she's an alcoholic, a recovering alcoholic.
Yeah, newly recovering. But yeah, I think she's close with her sponsor enough that it makes sense that it's a bond. And also, her sponsor keeps her in check. So I think that's important. Almost like a therapist to her.
Okay. Is Sarah of a similar age to Vicky?
That's a good question. Yeah. Maybe Sarah is more like a mother figure to Vicky. I think she's older. Vicky's probably 29, 30. She's pretty young. So Sarah's probably 50s, 60s, maybe 60s, probably 60s.
Okay, 60s. Okay, interesting. And where does she live? Does she live in Manhattan, in Queens, in Brooklyn?
Sarah lives in Manhattan. Vicky lives in Queens.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does Sarah do? Do you know? What does she do for work? Is she retired? Is she?
I think that she, I want to say she's retired, but I feel like she does a few different like part-time jobs to keep busy. She's like a very happy person, which is good for Vicky. But I think Sarah's like, oh, I volunteer. I do crafts with the kids at this like center, and I'm also a sponsor, and I like to help out at the library. You know, she's just like always up to something.
Okay, love it. That's awesome. What about you, Francis?
Okay, so I got 3 bonds.
Okay.
The first one, I'm gonna go from like weakest to strongest. The first one is with my dad, who is also in the military, but we've got a very, very tenuous relationship. He's just like a hard-ass kind of military guy who's always just treated me like I was a soldier rather than a kid. So we've got a tough situation, but you know, we're family. We still keep in touch. We still meet up regularly for like a more like perfunctory kind of like, well, let's go get something to eat, or let's go, you know, sit and watch a game. And we're very uncomfortable the whole time and not really bonding. So that's one. And then I have a girlfriend named Janice Rossi. She lives out in Far Rockaway. I just started to get to know her. She's all right. She keeps things light. She's like, she's the opposite of what my CIA life is. She's very like fast and loose. I feel like she's a hairdresser or something.
Hairdresser in Far Rockaway named Janice Rossi.
Yeah, Janice Rossi. She basically keeps me keeps everything light for me. So like I like hanging out with her. I don't have to talk. I don't have to talk about anything serious.
Does she know that you are in the CIA?
She does, but she has no idea what I do, and she doesn't care. That's why I love Janice.
Did you say your name? Was I doing stats when you said your name?
No, I didn't actually. Okay. I'm still working that out.
Okay.
I want to
make sure I didn't miss it.
No, I don't. I want to make it good. I feel like I got to bring something good. And then
hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Oh,
what is your dad's name?
Oh, my dad.
You can think about it if you want.
Colonel Bill Walford. Yes.
Bill Walford.
Colonel Walford.
It's painful for him to say his father's name. Leave him alone.
Did you like look at a wall and then a Ford sitting outside?
There's a Ford parked outside.
First $1 bill and then
Bill Walford. Yes. Bill Walford. I'm bringing the hits, guys.
Colonel William Walford.
Yes. That's awesome. Colonel William Walford.
That's amazing.
All his friends call him Bill. I'm not one of them.
I call him Dad.
He likes to remind me of that. No. And then my last bond is Mr. Kremensky. He is. Oh, I live in Manhattan, by the way. Mr. Kremensky is a old Ukrainian guy who I know from the neighborhood. He's in my building. We play chess every afternoon around 6 o'clock in the park near our building. And we shoot the shit. And, he's a really old guy. He's like on his last legs, but you could tell he's seen some shit, and he immigrated from Ukraine back in the day. I don't know if there's some more history there between him, but we get along. We don't talk much. We play chess. And,
okay.
But it's a daily occurrence.
That's great.
Awesome.
That is, Francis, that is such great work. That is an exact example of a bond. Like, that's what a bond is. It's like, It doesn't have to be somebody you have a close emotional relationship with. Yeah. It's just something that grounds you in your life. And if like every day I play chess with this guy and it's meaningful and it gets my mind off of the horrible shit at work, then it matters. It's important.
Yeah. Mr. Kremensky.
And your name? You said you're still thinking about it. We can come back to you.
Yeah, give me a minute. I feel I have a couple ideas, but
got a last name.
Yeah,
we got our last name.
It's Walford.
All right, Skid.
So I think he's very close with his mother.
Okay.
who lives on the Upper East Side. Johnny is her name. And
Johnny is her name, not your character's name?
It's her name.
Her surname, okay.
Dude's name for girls. I love that.
Yeah, it was a very popular name for women back in.
I feel like
And how did you spell it?
Johnnnie.
That's exactly how I spelled it. Awesome.
Nice.
So, and he has this like codependent love-hate relationship with his mother. Can't wait for her to die. I swear to God, I was on the phone with her, and she brought up the thing with the bagels again, and and his former lover / best friend, Fran, who is an assistant editor at Vanity Fair, and his beleaguered assistant, who he also has a horrible, abusive, not abusive, but codependent relationship with his assistant, Noah, who started off as an intern from NYU and just couldn't quit it.
Okay.
So, yeah, he just badgers him and constantly.
That's great.
Awesome. So this is an employee, essentially, right? You pay Noah, and he's your assistant for your filmmaking activities. Fran, a former lover / best friend, assistant editor at Vanity Fair. What is Fran's relationship with you? Best friend. So is it go both ways? And are they very supportive of you and stuff?
I think we argue.
Do you talk
constantly.
a lot?
Yeah, we talk all the time. We always argue over coffee. Like, she insists she wants me to come up to the Upper West Side. I'm like, there's perfectly good coffee and bagels down here in the village. Get on the train.
She doesn't go below 14. Come on now.
I'm tired. I don't want to come all the way up there. So yeah, I think they're constantly bickering, but again, like, they can't quit each other.
Okay, good. So that's three bonds each for Skid and Francis, 2 bonds each for Sydney and Troy.
I got to make one more. I do have 3 total. I just haven't figured it out yet.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, let me know when you know. In the meantime, let's go through a few final details. We're coming to the end here. Just a few polish it off details. All of your agents sound like they are American. I was just looking at nationality. Are all of your agents American?
Yep.
Yeah.
Italian American.
Italian American.
If I wanted to
easy.
explore that doing the adapted to helplessness thing again.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a second.
Okay, I was just curious what the penalty was.
The penalty, I'll get to it in a second.
Okay.
Basically,
I didn't know
all
if
of
you were
you
talking-
are going to suffer some penalties here, unless you're telling me this is your first Delta Green operation that you've ever done, basically. So you all have to be, you don't have to be, for this operation, you all have to be already in Delta Green. You have to be recruited already. And you, Troy, it's on page 38 under
the
damaged veterans.
Yeah.
So if you just think about it for a second, you all have code names. You've all already been recruited by Delta Green. That doesn't necessarily mean that you've been out on an operation or even multiple operations. If you have been, we will make some adjustments to your character sheet, which is fine. If this is the first mission you would ever go on for Delta Green, you would still have been recruited and still be part of the agency, and you would still have to have some knowledge that the unnatural exists and that it needs to be stopped at all costs. These things would be important for your character to understand. You're not investigating this situation under a pretense that nothing is unnatural here and then being like, what is this? You would know that you're going in to seek out if there's anything unnatural and destroying it, essentially, is the idea of what Delta Green does. So before we do that, let's see if we could just finalize a couple details like names and stuff like that. So what is your agent's name and what do they look like and how old are they? So I'll go to you, Francis, to start. Name, age, and sort of appearance.
Okay, Robert Bobby Walford. I go by
Bobby
Robert,
Walford.
but my friends call me Bobby. And he's kind of a lanky, not, I'd say average build. He is African American, born and raised in New York. I like the Bronx. Let's say he grew up in the Bronx, but now lives in Manhattan as he's moved up in the CIA. What else was I supposed to say? It was the name?
You said that he was like lanky, right?
Lanky, yeah. Lanky, average kind of strength, I guess. Yeah.
Average build, but a little lanky.
Build. Yeah.
And does he have like hair, short hair, long hair, bald?
Yeah. Pretty standard crew cut, trying to be like his dad, straight-laced, dresses like very conservatively, shirt, tie to work every day.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all you need. You just want a picture of like what they look like when they walk into a scene, right? So that's really all you need. What they're wearing, what their face kind of looks like, their hair. Does he have facial hair? Does he keep that clean cut too? Like,
yeah, I'm gonna say he has a mustache, solid mustache,
nice,
Eddie Murphy style,
solid mid '90s stash,
solid mid '90s stash. Just that nice triangle right there, high and tight. Janice likes it.
I love it. Janice likes it. It's awesome. And do you think he's been on Delta Green operations even once before, or is this his first call into the field?
I feel like he's just read reports, but has never actually been in the field about it. He knows it's out there. He's seen debriefs. He's like looked at video and audio of like strange occurrences, but he's never been face to face.
Okay, good.
He's green. He's green.
He's green. All right.
He's
Bobby Walford. Love it. What about Sydney?
She has Vicky Ricci.
Yep.
Has dark brown hair that's in a classic 90s pixie cut. Kind of just like she pins it sometimes with bobby pins to keep it like out of her face, but it's pretty short. And she cut it after her and her husband got separated. She used to have really long hair, so she's not used to having short hair, and she feels a little bit like not quite feminine enough with it, but she did it and she tries to rock it. She's petite and pretty thin, and she has like thin eyebrows.
By petite, she's also short, thin, and short. Okay.
Short and thin, a small woman. She's got like penciled in kind of sharp brown eyebrows, and she does like the darker lip liner around the lips, like very 90s kind of like darker lip. And she always has her nails done.
Okay. What does she wear? Sort of, what is a federal agent? Does she wear suits? Does she wear like suits?
Yes, but think of like Fran in The Nanny, whatever that show. What was that show?
Fran Drescher.
Fran Drescher.
Fran Drescher. She does like vests, with women's slacks and like high-waisted slacks and stuff like that. So she's fashionable, but she keeps it low-key for the office with like blacks and browns and burgundies. Underrated
show, by the way. We've been watching a few of the reruns. It's occasionally quite brilliant.
Am I the only one that was kind of into Fran Drescher? Is that
we all loved Fran Drescher?
Everyone had a crush on Fran Drescher.
I wasn't sure if it was okay to be honest about that. Yeah, even with the voice, I don't know. The voice kind of did
the voice.
It was
somehow
weird.
Added to it. It was
so weird.
Yeah, it was incredible.
And Joe, in terms of Delta Green stuff, I think she was recruited in the guise of her familiarity with like handwriting analysis. And she did a lot of correspondence, but it was weird because it was like unknown who she was really talking to at the time, but she was doing a lot of back and forth through the mail, funny enough, like correspondence with somebody, and then eventually kind of got introduced to Delta Green as like a formal thing. So I don't know if she's necessarily been in the field, but she's very familiar with kind of how they operate, what they need from her, the nobody talks about it type of thing.
So just so you know, we've done some of this even in the program that you did in 2009 and Sydney, you in 2019 it's all highly secretive. So if you were to have this mail correspondence with someone who remained nameless, the way that it would probably look for you, and you can determine the details of this at your leisure, and we could talk about it off air, but you would have been just suddenly approached by someone. And like when you were out at a deli or when you're walking down the street to your office, and they would mention things that were exactly written in the mail correspondence, that you said to sort of like prove their identity. And then they would start to recruit you, a process that would take maybe a couple months and would just be like, will you hear another conversation? And you can say yes, or you could say no. And then they leave you alone, and then you're cut out of everything. And they just keep an eye on you. If you have any knowledge of something unnatural ever happening, right? If you had worked on a case and you picked something up that was weird, that's when they would start approaching you, and they would keep an eye on you, and they would see if you wanted to be recruited in to do more work in this field. And then it would eventually lead to a meeting where they're like, do you understand that there are unnatural threats in the world and that at all costs they must be eliminated? And if you say yes, you want in, then they'll be like, we'll be in touch. And then they would just vanish into the streets of New York City. And one day, however it happens, right? So are you similar to Francis saying this would be your first real field operation?
Yeah, and I think it's that same thing, like they're always around and she knows it, and like they do approach her, and a lot of it is through coded writing, like they'll slip her a note and it's something like that and she decodes it and vice versa, because that's kind of like her specialty.
Yes.
And then I think this one time, they approach her and they're like, we need you in person. And through all of this, through like the months of this recruitment and everything from when she first started to now kind of working for Delta Green, that's when she was going through her divorce and separation and stuff. And now she also feels like a freer person, and she's kind of ready. Like she's like, let's do this. I'm ready to see the world through this lens.
Okay, because that's so cool. Because of her recent divorce, she's now going to throw herself into this thing because she's like, I'm going to do something new here. I'm cutting my hair and I'm going to go hunt down unnatural beasts.
Typical midlife crisis.
Just getting her groove back at Delta Green.
Okay, great. And then what about Skid? What about your character? Do you have a name?
I know his agent name.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. We can use that to start.
I'm not going to say his real name yet because I don't have it.
Okay.
But it's M, right? Everything has to start with M.
Everything has to start with M.
So he's Agent Murnow.
Agent Murnow.
Nice.
So he looks very similar to, but absolutely legally distinct from in every way, the filmmaker Neil Breen. And I have a picture here for watching at home on the video. There. Okay, so that's it's kind of like sandy brown hair. He's in his 50s. Wow. He wears a lot of like black leather jackets and like big rings of like turquoise and stuff in them.
Those kind brows look well maintained. Those brows,
very well maintained brows. Love very kind of a Santa Fe meets Lower East Side vibe. A lot of turquoise and silver sunglasses. So.
Lots of turquoise and silver. Santa Fe meets. Oh god, that's so good. Okay.
Oh god.
Is he all right? So is he tall? Is he average height?
Yeah, he's tall. He's a little bit taller than me. I think he's probably like 6'2", lean, and with a little bit of a paunch that like he just kind of hides it under his jackets as he's getting older. And I was thinking that he may have actually been on one mission before. I think what I was thinking is that maybe he was shooting a documentary about native peoples in the Amazon basin. And there was some like Delta Green kind of op going down, and out of desperation, pure desperation of whatever's going on in the op, he got roped into it because of his doctoring skills. Like he had, so he was kind of got a field commission like into Delta Green. It's like that was his exposure to it. I think he barely saw anything or actually experienced anything but that was his first exposure to the organization was for that.
Okay. Awesome. And so in that case, why don't you go ahead and, well, you have two options, Skid. You can either take a roll. We'll do like a 1d3 roll of sanity loss just from that initial sort of experience and operation.
Sure.
Which would be a very simple little detriment. Your other option is to take a damaged veteran template, which allows you to be immune to certain kinds of sanity damage, but you also take, like increased skills in occult and stuff like that. This is one of the options Troy was discussing earlier.
Yeah, I've made some changes based on this because I want this to be a little different.
Okay. So, yeah, basically you can, it's not that bad. If it was, you increase occult, and you can, and it'll reduce your sanity by 5. It can hurt your bonds and stuff like that. So I don't know, is that something you want to explore, or do you just want to take a little bit of sanity damage? What do you think?
I think whatever his experience was, I don't think it maybe was extensive enough to justify something like that.
Okay.
So I think I'll just take the sanity damage.
Okay. So do a 1d3 for me. Let's just do that.
Well, the gold-plated Roman replica die.
Yeah, we'll see how much this impacted him.
3.
That heat.
Great. We rolled the Norse Foundry. So I'm down to
just
57 sanity now.
57 san. Okay. And yeah, I think you could argue, Skid, that some of this, let's say this was even a few years ago, that this happened, if not more. And some of that sanity damage, though, is taking shape in some of the films that you're making. And maybe you've even seen some increased success because of some of the, it's not that you're shooting stuff about what happened.
No, but it's just informing his
mind.
Sort of aesthetics in a weird way that just that disturbs people on a gut level that they can't explain just because of exposure to this stuff. Yeah, like I love that.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, Troy, you said you changed a few things. Is there anything you wanted to discuss?
So again, this has to go back to not really knowing how to play when I first built Roger. But the way I think about him now, I'm interested, rather than having him be adapted to helplessness, having him be adapted to extreme violence.
Okay.
Because I think this is just an interesting way to play, because where he's so off the wall, to also be able to get to really dark places.
I think it makes way more sense for him to be inured to that than helpless.
Especially because this version of Roger Year One is only recently out.
That's what I've named the sheet, by the way.
Roger Year One.
Cumstone Year One.
Cumstone Year One.
Cumstone Year One. Phenomenal.
Cumstone begins.
But he's only recently out of military service, right? And he's only recently out of Desert Storm, relatively, just a couple years, whatever. So he could be freshly adapted to extreme violence because of that time in Kuwait.
Yeah, and the idea here is that something happened out there, or a collection of some things that made an impression upon him, and Delta Green knows about that, and that's why he was recruited. So, maybe we get into that, maybe we don't, but something horrible happened out there that was supernatural, that he was a part of, where extreme violence was part of that. So what I've done...
I like the idea, too, that, just Desert Storm ended in 1991, but that doesn't mean that's when he came back from Iraq.
Yes. That's equally dark. What was he doing out there? So I changed a couple of my scores just because I think it'll better knowing the blows that I'm going to take. It just kind of makes it so that I don't have a charisma of 2. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I actually made my intelligence down to 8 to bump my power up to 15, and then moved my charisma up to 8 as well, because those are all about to change. Because with extreme violence, I add 10 to my occult skill, so now I'll have an occult of 20. My sanity will go down by 5. It had already gone down by 2 because of that unnatural, so that'll be down to a 63. And then my charisma and my bond scores go down by 3. So my charisma and my bond scores are going to be 5 now.
Oh my gosh. Oh, she really is a saint for for dealing with you even though you're broken.
Well, it's just one of those.
For that bird.
Yeah, I know, and I'm already realizing what's going to happen to poor Jimmy. But I think that
you're planning his death.
there wasn't a happily ever after, and they got married, and it was like, this is going to be great. It seems now as we rebuild this character, it's like, yeah, that one night stand, that might have been the high point of their relationship. And then it was just rocky. Let's get married. Maybe she got pregnant. And it was never good. And if I continue to project problems on this from the start, it's going to be pretty obvious as to why they got divorced. But again, the future, although that existed, need not inform this, because we don't know how much of that is a part of this. Is there a divergent timeline? Was he sent back? We're going to discover that together. So I don't want to be too tied to what happened.
I love it.
And that's really kind of how I was finishing it out today, which is do you have any concepts of what he knows of the future that you know as a player? Right now, you're saying he doesn't know anything, or you're keeping it totally open as to what Roger's knowledge of future operations in this story. Does he have any knowledge at all?
Well, it's funny, when we built the character the first time, you have to come up with motivations and mental disorders.
Yeah, that was the other thing I didn't do, yeah.
And I just randomly said wanted to run away to an island, and that became such a part of his downtime between the 10 years. And one of the other ones I had was stop the bad dreams. I think that's still a disorder motivation for him right now, but the bad dreams take the form of this divergent reality. Like the bad dreams seem so, like bad dreams often do, seem so real because maybe they already happened to him in the future. It gets this weird fucking
I love this.
Lovecraftian nonsense that's happening, and then it explains why he's a fucking psychopath.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because he's tortured.
Yeah. Stopping the bad dreams that you created as a motivation at the start of the first episode. It could be now we're realizing that the dreams are memories. Like they're actually memories of something that you can't grasp or understand.
Oh man!
Wow. Come Stone, you're fucked up.
That's what his dreams are. There's like a voice, and it's like, "You're so fucked up."
Well, thank you so much for the reminder. I do need everybody to come up with a series of motivations. You don't have to do it today. We will figure that out. Basically, you want to come up with 4-ish motivations, things that drive your character day in and day out, or that make them want to be in Delta Green. Because the important thing is when and if your experience in this campaign is going to bring you to the brink and leave you with certain mental disorders. One of the mechanics of the game is that the mental disorder replaces a motivation. So you have that double hit at once. You both you suffer with this trauma now in your life, and you also want to live a little less, or whatever it is. You want to do a little less with what you had previously thought of as important, or a goal of yours going forward. So that is it's dark to think about, but I think it's a mechanic that really plays well into how dangerous what you do is here in Delta Green, and how you guys approach this thing is going to shake up your lives and the lives of everyone around you. I said it before, and I'll say it again. We are about to start Impossible Landscapes.
I'm so psyched. I've been so psyched to do this long form adventure in Delta Green. Is so
This is awesome.
Yeah,
So
just to give you an idea of the size of the campaign. This is the handbook of all the rules, and the below it is the campaign. It is twice the size of the rule book of all the rules.
My God.
So yeah, we are in for a treat, and that is going to be where we start our next episode of Get in the Truck. Next episode next week. We are starting Impossible Landscapes. This crew that we just built together is going to start their NYC operation. Where it's going to start, these guys have no idea. What's happening, they have no idea. I can't wait. And what they have built is only going to make it so much better and so much wilder, and they have no idea. I love it. I love everything that you guys did today. It was so exciting. I can't wait to get started. Until we see you next time. Bye, guys. Have a good week. We'll see you next week.
Bye. See you next week.
It's a free country. It's a free country.
Free country.
At least it used to be.
Oh my God.